Chapter 61. 61, Of course I would. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. Of course I would. Translator. _min_Chui Song, emotionally overwhelmed, exclaimed with fervor, this painting incorporates an array of superior techniques. Even many painting masters have overlooked these details, yet this young girl has identified them instantly. This time, it was Song Yu who stood there, flabbergasted. Then she stuttered out, did Gu Dai correctly interpret the painting just now? Wang Lan grew anxious, shaking her head furiously and adamantly denying, impossible, absolutely impossible. How could Gu Dai be correct? Facing the relentless skepticism, an agitated Chui Song stroked his beard gently. His voice revealed hints of frustration as he argued, what's so impossible? This masterpiece was the final one my master created before he passed away. Its level of achievement is something I'm yet to match. As Chui Song finished, an uproar broke out among the audience and their gaze converged on Gu Dai. Who is she to spot the uniqueness of a painting in a single glance? The Song family just made fun of her ignorance, only to get slapped in the face. One must say, it's quite satisfying to watch. This lady doesn't seem to come from a lowly background. The aura she exudes, one can't compete. At that moment, Gu Dai also regained her composure. Glancing at Wang Lan and Song Yu, she declared icily, Gu Dai, never play the fool. Song Ling's face turned ashen. He hadn't anticipated enduring several bouts of humiliation in a single afternoon. He looked at Gu Dai, questioning her with fury, when did you learn painting, and how did one not know? Jiang Yu wasn't faring any better. She could acutely sense the surrounding spectators' mocking gazes. She also promptly followed Song Ling's outburst with, Dai, why didn't you mention you were knowledgeable in painting? Dai. It was then Gu Dai took note of Jiang Yu's chosen moniker for her. She scrutinized Jiang Yu disdainfully, one didn't anticipate you to pretend you are close with me. I just told you to stop calling me sister and now you address me as Dai. Jiang Yu felt an intense wave of embarrassment from Gu Dai's words. Gu Dai proceeded to answer, one didn't express my familiarity in this domain as one assumed that after one explained the painting's features, you all should comprehend. As for when one garnered my painting knowledge, I don't know either, after all, one merely examined a few paintings earlier. Song Ling, his gaze fixed on the ground, was deep in thought. True, there were several paintings in the villa initially, and Gu Dai indeed took a look at them. But could she grasp so much just from fleeting glances? Gu Dai caught on to Song Ling's expression, swiftly organized her thought process, and gently said, I believe this could be a form of talent. This caused Chui Song to burst into hearty laughter. Upon hearing the laugh, Gu Dai turned to him and spoke nervously, Greetings, Master Chui Song, 1 am Gu Dai, and one hold profound admiration for your master's painting. Would he be open to selling it? In reality, not only Gu Dai's father but Gu Dai herself had been enamored with Chui Song's paintings when she saw them. Thus, Chui Song had risen to hero status in her eyes. Meeting him in person now, she was inevitably anxious. Chui Song responded swiftly, Young lady, there's no need for nerves. You certainly possess a knack for painting. However, this painting isn't up for sale as it was the last one my master created before his demise. He wanted it exhibited forever in the gallery. Gu Dai was startled. She hadn't expected the old man to have passed. Chui Song couldn't suppress a twinge of empathy when he saw her reaction. After all, since her arrival at the exhibit, he'd kept an eye on her and had a vague understanding of her predicament. She hadn't acquired either of the paintings she liked. One wasn't for sale, and the other had been sold by the owner prior to the auction. And he was powerless to alter the fate of the painting that the owner had auctioned off already. Chui Song mulled over it briefly, then said to Gu Dai, one recently completed a piece. One don't know if you'd appreciate it, but if you do, I'll gift it to you. Gu Dai looked up at Chui Song in astonishment, declaring excitedly, one would, of course, I would. Chapter 62. 62, White Powder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62. White Powder. Translator. _min_Chui Song chuckled lightly and stated, that's wonderful. My painting isn't here now. It should probably arrive the day after tomorrow. Gu Dai bobbed her head repeatedly in agreement. She then cast a glance at Song Ling's party, then back at Chui Song. The internal unease prompted her to whisper, truthfully, I'm not a natural talent. It's my early exposure to art that enabled my understanding. Chui Song grasped at once that Gu Dai's story had many hidden layers. Regardless, he responded, even if you have been studying since childhood, your talent is undeniable. Many of my friends, professional painters for decades, can't comprehend my master's paintings. Finally relaxed, Gu Dai said her goodbyes to Chui Song and departed unburdened. Song Ling's gaze followed Gu Dai's retreating figure. Jiang Yu practically ground her teeth into dust. Brother Song Ling, one didn't see it because, Song Ling interrupted Jiang Yu mid-sentence, announcing, I have some company matters to address, and promptly exited the exhibit hall. Upon Song Ling's exit, he observed that Gu Dai had already boarded a car. He withdrew his gaze as the taxi vanished from sight, pulled out his phone, and messaged Zhao Xian. Gu Dai's identity isn't straightforward. Investigate her thoroughly from 3 years ago. At this point, Gu Dai was unaware of Song Ling's investigation of her. Even if she had been, it wouldn't have mattered, as she wouldn't let him discover anything. After getting on the taxi, she messaged Chu Min, advising him to keep tabs on Wang Lan. Based on her 3 years of lost memory and her interactions with Wang Lan, she anticipated that a cash-strapped Wang Lan would surely resort to some scheme. Chu Min promptly responded to Gu Dai's message. Got it, boss. Gu Dai pocketed her phone and stared out the car window. After recognizing the buildings outside, her eyes narrowed threateningly. She turned to the driver and asked, her voice icy, who sent you here? Sun Yang didn't anticipate Gu Dai's sharp intuition and her quick realization that something was amiss. Since they did not reach the destination yet, he had no choice but to lock the car doors and awkwardly explain, I'm just an ordinary driver. Nobody sent me here. Gu Dai retracted her gaze, didn't inquire further, and spotted a water bottle next to her. She asked, I'm quite thirsty. May I drink this water? Sun Yang responded affirmatively, absolutely. Gu Dai unscrewed the water bottle, took a sip, and then held her forehead, complaining in a daze, why do one feel somewhat dizzy? Keeping an eye on the situation in the back, Sun Yang noticed Gu Dai had completely passed out. A sinister smile curled the corners of his mouth as he sneered, this woman is truly naive. She drank the water laced with sleeping pills without any persuasion. 20 minutes later, the car halted at the gate of a deserted factory. Sun Yang exited the car and dashed inside, announcing, boss, I've brought the person. Shortly, a man with a facial scar appeared beside Sun Yang. Sun Hai went to the car, turned around, and slapped Sun Yang, bellowing, where is the person? Diovi Ko, she's in the car. Sun Yang, clutching his slapped face, moved closer to check but found the car empty. He couldn't believe his eyes and blurted out, she was here just a moment ago, she can't have disappeared. Sun Yang clambered into the car through the window and searched every spot he could think about, all while Sun Hai cursed and occasionally struck Sun Yang in fury. A short distance away, Gu Dai, leaning against a massive tree with her arms crossed, couldn't bear to watch the buffoonery any longer and casually interrupted them. Stop searching, because I'm outside the car. Sun Yang looked puzzled, but you drank the water with sleeping pills. How could you be awake? Gu Dai clarified, one didn't drink it. I was pretending. Touching on the subject of sleeping pills, Gu Dai couldn't resist commenting, have you ever seen regular water with a bunch of white powder? Sun Hai instantly kicked Sun Yang, swearing, "You idiot." Sun Hai's face turned menacing as he glared at Gu Dai, his voice laced with threat, "Since you revealed yourself, don't blame us for being rude." "Wait." Gu Dai halted them, "If you tell me who sent you, one promise not to harm you." Sun Hai and Sun Yang exchanged glances, broke into loud laughter, and ridiculed her further, "Are you joking with us? Do you believe we, two grown men, would fear you, a woman?" Chapter 63 63, Middle-aged man. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 63 Middle-aged man. Translator _min_ upon witnessing the scene unfold, Gu Dai felt a pang of helplessness. I have already extended an olive branch. If they choose to ignore it, it's their own folly. Gu Dai's agility mirrored that of a swift bird, weaving effortlessly between the two men, leaving them spinning, their faces and bodies stained with blood. Not once did Sun Hai or Sun Yang land a successful hit on her. Instead, their uncoordinated movements led them to crash into one another, collapsing in a heap. Growing tired of this charade, Gu Dai took out her silver needles and pierced their skin. With eyes wide in shock, Sun Yang exclaimed, "Boss, I can't feel anything. Am I paralyzed?" Sun Hai retorted in frustration, "Do you honestly believe I can move?" Even though paralyzed, the pain coursing through their veins was palpable. Their faces contorted in sheer agony. Indifferent, Gu Dai probed, once more, "Who's your employer?" Yet, despite their predicament, the duo refused to divulge. "We abide by the street code. Never will we betray our employer." She responded curtly, "Very well. Prepare yourselves. What's your plan?" Sun Yang's voice was thick with terror. A cold, enigmatic smile danced on Gu Dai's lips as she played with a silver needle. "If words don't work, perhaps actions might encourage you." The night was dense and silent except for the gleaming moonlight that highlighted the menacing sharpness of the needle. When Sun Hai and Sun Heng met Gu Dai's eyes, their abdominal clenched in fear, as they shouted in fear, "We'll say it, we'll say it, we'll say everything." Their resolve breaking, Sun Hai began, "A certain Mr. Gu approached us. He provided a camera, directed us to a secluded location, and then, his voice wavered, words lost in fear, stammering and becoming quiet. An icy edge to her tone, Gu Dai pressed with her gaze fierce and deadly, "Continue." Gulping down his hesitation, Sun Hai confessed, "He commanded us to our *PEU. Enraged, Gu Dai hurled a needle with such force it splintered a nearby tree. The realization of the power she wielded left the two men aghast. In their immobilized state, fear was their sole emotion. If it wasn't for the fact they could not move, they would have collapsed more. A particular figure flashed across Gu Dai's mind, in her icy tone, "Middle-aged man, surnamed Gu." The very morning she informed Gu Ming about the financial constraints, he retaliated by evening. His efficiency was commendable, if not alarming. Ordering the two men, she said, "Get Gu Ming on the phone. Tell him to come here." Sun Yang was hesitant, as he said, "It's getting late, he won't." Sun Hai interrupted Sun Yang and assured Gu Dai in a sycophantic tone, "All right, miss, you can count on us." Gu Dai removed the silver needles lodged in their bodies. Once Sun Hai and Sun Yang felt they could move again, an idea instantly flickered in their minds. However, before it fully formed, the next second Gu Dai's cold words shattered their fleeting thought. "You can't defeat me, so don't even think of trying anything clever," Gu Dai stated. Leaning against Sun Hai, Sun Yang frowned in confusion and asked, "Boss, if we call out our employer, won't our reputation on the streets be ruined? Who would give us work in the future, idiot?" Sun Hai cursed, "Reputation or your life, which is more important?" Sun Hai finished his sentence and promptly dialed Gu Ming's number. "Hello, I've already filmed the video," Sun Hai said, "bring the money to me now, and we can make a fair trade." "What? I didn't send you the location." 1 foot 11 inches, send it to you shortly. And remember, come alone, or I'll immediately destroy the video. After hanging up, Sun Hai quickly sent the location to Gu Ming. He then turned to Gu Dai, looking for approval. Miss Gu, the task is done. Gu Dai nodded and sighed, wouldn't it have been better if you had known this earlier? We wouldn't have wasted time. By the way, I'll need you to step in when Gu Ming arrives. After Gu Dai explained her plan to them, Sun Hai and Sun Yang nodded repeatedly. After all, even without her saying it, they would have wanted to proceed in the same way. Chapter 64 64, Fruit Knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64 Fruit Knife. Translator _Min_Gu Ming ended his call with a grin. Overjoyed, he exclaimed, "Ha ha ha, it's all set, Gu Dai has finally fallen into my hands." Hearing Gu Ming's words, Lu Min and Gu Ji immediately flocked around him. What happened? Did Sun Hai or Sun Yang call? In his eagerness, Gu Ming grasped the money he had already prepared and replied impatiently, "Exactly, I'm going to get the video with this money. Then we can use it to threaten Gu Dai. The Gu family fortune is within our reach. Amazing. We can return to a luxurious life, afford stylish clothes and bags, and enjoy lavish meals." Lu Min and Gu Ji chuckled together, allowing themselves to daydream about their future life of abundance, especially after enduring a period of poverty that had almost driven them to madness. Caught up in his excitement, Gu Ming promptly drove to the agreed-upon location. Upon seeing Sun Hai and Sun Yang, he questioned without delay, "Where is the camera?" Sun Hai produced the camera, then asked Gu Ming, "Did you bring the money?" Gu Ming affirmed, "Of course, I brought it." Sun Hai nodded, "All right, since you brought it, let's make the trade." Sun Hai passed the camera to Gu Ming, and simultaneously seized Gu Ming's box of money. After verifying it was indeed real money, he nodded in satisfaction. Upon receiving the camera, Gu Ming was keen to examine it, muttering, niece, if you hadn't cut off my overseas funding, how could I resort to this? This is all your fault." What Gu Ming didn't expect, however, was to find a chubby, white, pig on the camera. The joyous smile on Gu Ming's face froze, he was in disbelief as his eyes widened. As he regained his senses, he glared at Sun Hai and Sun Yang, and roared in anger, "You dare to fool me." To Gu Ming's enraged outcry, Sun Hai was completely indifferent as he retorted, "So what if we fooled you? What are you going to do, beat us up?" Before Gu Ming could respond to Sun Hai's words, he was bagged by Sun Yang, who had been standing nearby. While they were unable to deal with Gu Dai, Gu Ming was an easy catch, considering he had become lazy and slothful over the past few years. Gu Ming hadn't initially mentioned how difficult Gu Dai would be when he first posted the task. Since he got them beat up, he shouldn't blame them for retaliating with a bit of rough handling. Thrown into the bag and kicked several times, Gu Ming could only feel his ears ringing, his vision blurring, and each breath was painful. After a few minutes of being beaten, he began to plead, "I didn't mean to start a fight, please let me go. You can keep the money as a gift from me, please spare me." As Gu Ming finished shouting, he felt the blows cease. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking Sun Hai and Sun Yang were ready to let him go. His eyes were venomous, filled with resentment. He resolved to send someone to deal with them the moment he returned home. Gu Ming was somewhat correct, Sun Hai and Sun Yang did let him go, but not because of his pleading. It was because Gu Dai had arrived. Upon seeing Gu Dai, Sun Hai immediately handed over the money, whispering, "It's all here." Gu Dai glanced at the money, took it, and nodded to indicate they could leave. Without a moment's hesitation, Sun Hai and Sun Yang fleeted away. Gu Dai's gaze turned menacing. She looked at the fruit knife in her right hand, bent down to study the acupuncture points on Gu Ming's body in the bag. Unaware of the impending danger, Gu Ming shouted from inside, "Since you've agreed, 1 foot 11 inches come out now." "Ah! My arm!" Before Gu Ming could finish speaking, he felt a stabbing pain. The corners of Gu Dai's lips curled up slightly and a mad grin appeared on her face. In the next second, she swiftly, accurately, and ruthlessly pulled the knife from Gu Ming's arm. Blood immediately gushed out, quickly soaking and reddening the bag. Unsatisfied, Gu Dai picked up the fruit knife again and plunged it into Gu Ming several more times. Gu Ming cried out, "Help, help me." His voice was already hoarse, growing quieter and quieter. Yet, nobody came, for this was the secluded area he had specifically designated. Eventually, Gu Ming lost consciousness and collapsed. Chapter 65. 65, Pitiful Tone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. Pitiful Tone. Translator. Min upon recognizing that Gu Ming had fallen unconscious, Gu Dai, seized by a wave of annoyance, took a wet towel and began the process of removing the bloody smears and fingerprints from the fruit blade. Her frustration mounted with each stroke, and prompted her to slap him a few more times. Gu Ming had had the audacity to use such underhanded tactics against her in his pursuit of the Gu family's wealth, callously disregarding the memory of her father and the abundant kindness he'd extended towards Gu Ming during his life. Internally, Gu Dai questioned her approach. How could she simply allow Gu Ming to slip into unconsciousness while she sought revenge, devoid of any real suffering? No, it was only right that his torment be doled out in agonizing, incremental steps. And so, Gu Dai hauled Gu Ming's unconscious body from the sack, took out a gleaming silver needle, and stimulated a few of his acupuncture points to wake him. Gradually, Gu Ming clawed his way back to consciousness. His awakening was punctuated by a rasping cough. However, this sudden movement only served to intensify the throbbing pain throughout his body, jolting him back to full awareness. He yelped out, "Ah! This is so painful, why is my vision so foggy? I can't see anything. Am I going to die?" In answer to Gu Ming's disoriented inquiries, Gu Dai mentally retorted, "Of course you can't see, your entire face is covered by blood, my dear elder uncle." She cast her gaze downwards, her eyes whirling with emotion. In the very next moment, she loudly exclaimed, "Uncle, you've finally awakened. You were so quiet just now, I was terrified that you were gone. I'm going to call the police now and ensure the criminals are caught." When Gu Ming heard Gu Dai's voice, he felt a chilling sensation that seemed to have frozen his veins, momentarily eclipsing his physical torment. He was at a loss to explain why Gu Dai was present. But upon hearing her intention to call the police, he swiftly regained his senses. Mustering all his remaining strength, he managed to squeak out, "There's no need for the police, please call for an ambulance." With those words, Gu Ming once again slipped into unconsciousness, yet this time accompanied by an omnipresent throbbing. His world spun dizzily, and a sensation akin to being pricked by thousands of tiny nails reverberated throughout his body. Meanwhile, hours had elapsed, and both Lu Min and Gu Ji remained in a dreamy state with sleep being the last thing on their minds. Abruptly, a phone's shrill ring echoed through the room. It was a call from the hospital. Upon glancing at the caller ID, Lu Min chuckled softly at Gu Ji, "One bet that Gu Dai has been located. But given her lack of other relatives, the call has been redirected to me." Gu Ji nodded in agreement, "Mom, once the doctor rings later, ignore it. Let Gu Dai fend for herself. After all, we're on the verge of inheriting the Gu family's wealth. Her well-being is irrelevant." Gently rapping Gu Ji's head with her knuckles, Lu Min responded with a sigh of resignation, "You're quite the schemer, aren't you? You're even giving advice to your mother now. Don't worry, one certainly won't be going." After Lu Min concluded her statement, she picked up the phone and addressed the doctor on the other end, "Apologies, doctor. I'm just Gu Dai's aunt, and her situation has no relevance to me. It's late, so I'm heading off to bed." Despite being well aware of Lu Min's moral shortcomings, Gu Dai felt a wave of disappointment at her words. Without affording the doctor a chance to respond, she feigned concern and, with a voice tinged with tears, she told Lu Min on the other side of the phone, "Aunt, it's not me who's injured, it's my uncle who's hurt." Lu Min shot up in shock, exclaiming in disbelief, "What? Gu Dai, what are you saying? How can your uncle be injured? Which hospital? I'll be there immediately." Hearing the clatter on the other end of the phone, the result of a surprised Lu Min knocking over various items, Gu Dai looked down, a satisfied smirk appeared on her face as her shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. Her display did not go unnoticed by the medical staff, who all assumed she was sobbing because of extreme grief. After all, they had overheard Lu Min's dismissive words earlier. When Lu Min's arrived at the hospital, she seized Gu Dai in a tight grip, demanding, "Gu Dai, what have you done to your uncle?" Gu Dai, with eyes reddened from her feigned tears, struggled to remove herself from Lu Min's grip. In a voice that suggested she was greatly wronged, she said, "Aunt, you're hurting me." Seeing Gu Dai's distressed state, the sympathetic doctors intervened, prying Lu Min away and sternly reminding her, "This hospital prohibits violence and excessive noise." Crouching down, Gu Dai buried her face in her arms and sobbed out, "I'm just as clueless. One only witnessed two men assaulting my uncle. They fled upon my arrival. I intended to call the police, but my uncle insisted that I don't. He merely requested that I call an ambulance. Chapter 66. 66. Question. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 66. Question. Translator. Min Gu Dai halted. Her body lightly shook as she looked over fearfully. "Aunt Lu, should we contact the police? Those responsible need to be held accountable. We can't just let them run free." Lu Min found her mind spinning in overdrive. If the culprits were two men, it could indeed be Sun Hai and Sun Yang. If the police were alerted, they would likely uncover their scheme. She had to stop Gu Dai from making the call. Seeing Gu Dai pull out her phone, Lu Min quickly grasped her hand. "No, don't call the police." Gu Dai looked at her, confusion clear in her eyes. "Why not? My uncle's been severely injured. We can't just stand by." She paused and fixed a serious gaze on Lu Min. "Don't you want justice for my elder uncle?" Lu Min felt a wave of dizziness at the news of her husband's injuries. But, she gathered herself as her mind became clear when she heard Gu Dai's words, "Of course I care. But there might be a reason your elder uncle didn't want the police involved. Let's wait until he wakes up, then decide." Hearing Lu Min's response, Gu Dai inwardly scoffed. A reason, indeed. Regardless of how she felt internally, she calmly put on a convinced expression and said, "Aunt Lu, 1 foot 11 inches, head home to rest. There's a lot of work at the company and it's a crucial time to make money. One need to stay sharp." Lu Ming's expression turned worse. Seeing Gu Dai making money while they were penniless and in debt made Lu Min's expression sour. The money they used to pay Sun Hai and Sun Yang was borrowed. Not only had their plan failed, but they had also injured Gu Ming and now they couldn't afford his medical bills. Desperate, Lu Min turned to Gu Dai. "Dai. Gu Dai's brows knitted together, expecting an unwanted request. More importantly, she wanted to throw up when she heard her voice. Lu Min, not knowing that she was despised, wiped the tears streaking down her face, pleaded, Dai, your uncle's injuries are severe. We need money. Ever since you evicted us, we're penniless. Could you lend us some? We'll repay you as soon as we can. Or should I kneel and beg?" Gu Dai took a moment to respond. Lu Min's audacity was almost astonishing. She was far inferior compared to Lu Min in the ability to be shameless. Others were just as shocked and their eyes widened at Lu Min's words. Some murmured, "How heartless, evicting her own family. She won't agree even when the elder begs. Is she waiting for the elder to kneel?" Gu Dai calmly responded, "Aunt Lu, I didn't want to evict you. It was only fair that you stayed in my house while I was away for 3 years. But I'm back now, and I need my home, as one have nowhere else to stay either. Without giving Lu Min chance to speak, she continued, this might confuse others. You said earlier on the phone we weren't close. That's fine. In fact, I've already paid the medical bills, so uncle can get treated. With that, Gu Dai turned to leave. It's getting late, one should head home. 1 foot 11 inches visit uncle after work. She didn't rush her exit. She allowed a few tears to fall, swiftly wiping them away. Her eyes reddened, portraying a picture of someone wronged yet resilient. Chapter 67. 67. Bad luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Bad luck. Translator. Min upon seeing Gu Dai's state, sympathy flooded the hearts of those around. Suddenly, the realization hit them, as they exchanged words with the people around them. Did we just get played? So this woman moves into someone's house, gets kicked out and plays the victim. She's guilt. Tripping this poor girl. Am one getting it wrong? No, you're right. This girl is too nice for her own good. Despite how they've treated her, she still helped them out. If it were me, one wouldn't give them a second glance, much less pay their medical bills. Word after word reached Gu Dai, each comment making her smile grow wider and her steps lighter. Meanwhile, Lu Min's face was as long as a rainy day. She had hoped Gu Dai would be berated for being unfilial, but instead found herself the target of everyone's scorn. To avoid further embarrassment, she slipped away to Gu Ming's ward. Waking up late the next morning, Gu Dai was in a foul mood. She wouldn't have overslept if Gu Ming hadn't chosen to act at night, which made her late for work. To top it off, upon arriving at the office, she saw Song Ling. He looked her up and down and said coldly, with a frown, you said you didn't like me yesterday, and you're following me here today. Confused, Gu Dai shot back, as she thought he might be hallucinating, Mr. Song, you're still half asleep if you think I'm following you. He smirked and retorted, am one half asleep, or are you just playing hard to get? Look, Gu Dai, for the last time, it's never going to happen. And about the rumors you've been spreading about me, I'll let them go for now. Just as he was about to say more, Gu Dai interrupted, I'm here to work at Gu Group, what's your excuse for being here? Song Ling thought Gu Dai was lying. He raised an eyebrow and sneered, last time one checked, Gu Group required a bachelor's degree even for the front desk job. How did you, as someone who was born into the slums, without a proper degree, of all people, land a job here? He paused for a moment, then his voice suddenly turned more icy as he added, oh, one remember. Su Ting just partnered with Gu Group, didn't he? He got you this job, didn't he? You're nuts. Gu Dai muttered as she turned to leave. She wanted nothing to do with him. As she entered the elevator, Song Ling and Zhao Xian stepped in with her. Taken aback, she asked, what are you doing here? As Song Ling was silent, Zhao Xian stepped in nervously, Mr. Song has a meeting about a partnership with Chairwoman Gu. Discussing a partnership. Gu Dai carefully reviewed her schedule in her mind, certain that there was nothing involving the Song Corporation. How come I'm not aware that our Chairwoman Gu is supposed to discuss a partnership with the Song Corporation? After all, I'm her secretary, I'm the one who arranges her schedule. Song Ling responded indifferently, that just proves that you're merely imagining that you've been favored. Gu Dai looked at Song Ling, her eyes blazing with anger. She responded coldly, our chairwoman would never agree to see you. After all, the kind of person she dislikes the most in her life is playboys like you. Song Ling snorted, you, a little secretary, seem to think too highly of yourself. How could business matters be influenced by personal feelings? Zhao Xian, glancing back and forth, quickly stepped in to mediate, seer. Secretary Gu, we did make an appointment with Chairwoman Gu a while back. Perhaps you hadn't joined the company at that time, so you're not too clear on this matter. Gu Dai still firmly denied it, impossible. Chairwoman Gu would never agree to discuss a partnership with the Song Corporation. After a moment's thought, Zhao Xian softly suggested, how about Secretary Gu, you call Chairwoman Gu, and we can confirm with her directly. Chapter 68 68, You too, please leave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68 You too, please leave. Translator _min_ hearing Zhao Xian's suggestion, Gu Dai experienced a momentary panic in her mind. After all, she was the chairwoman, and she was currently present. How could she possibly make a phone call? Song Ling, perceiving Gu Dai's panic, smiled and said, "What's the matter? Getting scared? We were in a relationship for 3 years. If you end up being fired because of this, one can graciously offer you a secretarial position at Song Corporation." Gu Dai glanced at Song Ling, her response cool and aloof, "There's no need, and when have one ever been scared?" Quickly, Gu Dai pulled out her phone and dialed a number. The call was answered promptly on the other end. Fang Xiao picked up, "Chairwoman Gu, do you have any instructions?" With a chuckle, Gu Dai said to Fang Xiao, "Chairwoman Gu, President Song of Song Corporation claims he has a project to discuss with you. However, I don't remember scheduling this meeting. Is this a last-minute change?" Fang Xiao, after checking her phone several times and verifying that it indeed showed Gu Dai, asked in confusion, "Chairwoman Gu, what's going on?" "I'm Fang Xiao, you are Chairwoman Gu." Ignoring Fang Xiao's confusion, Gu Dai said, "All right, one understand. I'll reject him right away." Fang Xiao felt a sense of unease after the phone call ended. She began to wonder if this was Gu Dai testing her. There was no other plausible reason she could think of, considering she was just a department manager. Turning to Song Ling, Gu Dai spoke with an unbiased and straightforward tone, "I'm sorry, but Chairwoman Gu said she didn't have an appointment with you." Zhao Xian was taken aback and blurted out, "How can that be possible? Secretary Zhang clearly mentioned that Chairwoman Gu had agreed." Gu Dai's eyes narrowed as she repeated, "Zhang Hui." Instantly, Zhao Xian felt a sense of dread and stuttered, "Yes, yes." Gu Dai nodded, "Okay, 1 foot 11 inches. Inform Chairwoman Gu about this. You two can leave now." Zhao Xian, startled by Gu Dai's dismissal even after he had made everything clear, wanted to argue but was silenced by Song Ling. With a displeased expression, Song Ling spoke with an edge in his voice, "This is a gift for Chairwoman Gu. Please pass it on. Zhao Xian, let's go." Feeling the icy air emanating from Song Ling, Zhao Xian treaded carefully, wary of provoking Song Ling. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't seem to avoid stepping on a landmine. Song Ling's face was a mask of darkness as he asked, "One asked you to investigate Gu Dai, yet you failed to find out that she works at Gu Group. Is this your standard of work?" Zhao Xian hung his head low, tried to form a sentence, but in the end, nothing came out. He had tried his best to investigate but had genuinely found no information indicating Gu Dai's affiliation with the Gu Group. Suddenly, Zhao Xian had a thought and looked up at Song Ling, quietly suggesting, "President Song, could Gu Dai be the chairwoman of Gu Group?" Song Ling immediately dismissed the idea, "That's impossible." Although they both carried the Gu surname and Gu Dai had surfaced 3 years ago with amnesia around the same time the Gu family's young lady had disappeared, the possibility of them being the same person seemed too far-fetched. Song Ling repeatedly dismissed the idea in his mind. Still, as time passed, his heart became heavier. A few minutes later, he ordered Zhao Xian, "Check again, investigate more carefully." Reluctant to undertake the task, Zhao Xian could only reply, "Yes." After Gu Dai watched Song Ling leave, she turned her gaze to the gift left on the table. She picked it up and brought it into her office, nonchalantly tossing it into a pile of clutter. Soon after, a knock echoed through the office, and Fang Xiao, who had been feeling uneasy since their last conversation, entered. Upon being granted permission to enter, she looked at Gu Dai, who sat behind her desk, and went straight to the point, "Chairwoman Gu, I swear I have not betrayed the company. Gu Dai took a second to understand what she meant. Once she did, she responded, I know. I needed your assistance with an urgent matter earlier. Sorry for interrupting your work. I'll tell Lin Sheng to give you a raise. Fang Zhao's eyes lit up as she quickly said, it's no trouble at all, serving Chairwoman Gu is my honor. Fang Zhao's reaction caused Gu Dai to chuckle, her irritation at encountering Song Ling first thing in the morning had somewhat faded. That's all. You can get back to work now. Chapter 69. 69, Three Brothers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Three Brothers. Translator. Min seated in her office, Gu Dai, showing a hint of irritation, massaged her own temples and spoke up, by the way, call Zhang Hui to come here. Fang Xiao responded, okay, Chairman Gu. He quickly left. Zhang Hui entered with a hopeful smile not long after Fang Xiao left. Chairwoman Gu, agreeing to meet with President Song is what I should do. She was still fantasizing that Gu Dai was going to praise her. Gu Dai's voice was cold when she looked up from the document. Is making decisions without informing me what you should do. Didn't I ask you to reject the Song Corporation earlier? Why did you still agree? Zhang Hui looked flustered. Cooperation with the Song Corporation is beneficial for our company. One was acting in the company's best interests. Gu Dai replied calmly, I'm aware, but I had my reasons to refuse. Why did you override my decision? Zhang Hui sensed the oppressive aura exuding from Gu Dai, as it even made her lose her balance. She took a few steps back and she looked at the ground in panic. Without a hint of leniency, Gu Dai said, go to HR and process your resignation. You'll be compensated. Zhang Hui's voice was desperate, no, I won't resign. From the moment Gu Dai joined the Gu Group, the employee benefits had improved significantly. Not only was there no overtime, but the pay was also higher, and there were various holiday benefits. Most notably, the head of the company was understanding and mild. If there was a ranking list, Gu Group would undoubtedly be at the top. Zhang Hui had made early purchases and was in debt. For her, finding a company better than Gu Group in a short period was next to impossible. If she resigned now, she wouldn't be able to pay back her debts. Tears and snot dripped as Zhang Hui begged Gu Dai, please, Chairwoman Gu, give me another chance. I promise I won't do it again. Gu Dai's face was emotionless, if you resign voluntarily now, you'll receive compensation. Persist, and your actions will be recorded, making it hard for you to find another job. Zhang Hui realized there was no turning back. Dejected, she made her way to the HR department to process her resignation. After days of hard work, Gu Dai became proficient in the company's operations. In just 2 hours, she finished her tasks. As she stretched, her phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, her eyes reddened, and after a few deep breaths, she answered, wearing a smile. As soon as the call connected, a clear male voice rang out, Dai Dai, is that you? Even though Gu Dai had tried to compose herself, hearing Meng Ji's voice made her emotional. Third brother, it's me. I've missed you all. Meng Ji's voice was thick with emotion. Dai Dai, we've missed you too. How have you been? If anyone bullies you, just tell me. We're here for you. Laughing lightly, Gu Dai chuckled. He was still exactly the same as before, which made her fuzzy on the inside. However, she wasn't truthful with the inquirer. Instead, she said, third brother, no one's bullied me. I'm strong enough to fend for myself. Meng Ji chuckled, you're amazing, Dai Dai. Yet, deep down, Meng Ji felt pained. He knew Gu Dai always shared only the good news. He had learned from Chu Min about Gu Dai's amnesia and how she was neglected and bullied after her marriage. But no matter what, he would secretly find out who wronged her and ensure they paid for it. Chapter 70. 70. Send me her location. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. Send me her location. Translator. Underscore Min underscore Meng Ji, wearing a smile that reached Gu Dai through the phone, said in a doting tone, Dai Dai, I've got a surprise for you. When it arrives, see if it's to your liking. If not, third brother will find something else just for you. Gu Dai's lips curled into a smile as happiness flooded her heart. Yet, her voice conveyed a gentle protest, third brother, I really don't need anything. You shouldn't have gone through the trouble. Meng Ji exclaimed, as he became emotional. But one insist. One have only one sister. If not for you, who would I buy gifts for? He wished he could shower her with gifts to make up for the lost 3 years. For a moment, memories swirled in Gu Dai's mind, transporting her back to blissful days before the cruise ship incident. Growing up, apart from her parents, her uncle from her mom's side doted on her the most. Without a daughter of his own, he treated Gu Dai as his precious gem. And her 3 brothers. They treated her no less than a cherished princess. A glisten of tears formed in her eyes, which she discreetly wiped away, choosing to steer the conversation elsewhere. Third brother, are you and my elder brothers overseas right now? With a hint of excitement, Meng Ji replied, Dai Dai, all 3 of us are indeed abroad. Big brother is deep into an experiment, while second brother is on a film set. I'm just lucky that I took a break from my covert training for a competition, or I would have missed the wonderful news of your well-being. Competition. Curiosity sparkled in Gu Dai's eyes. Meng Ji acknowledged, at the same time, asked in high spirits, Dai Dai, take a wild guess at which spot third brother secured this time. Without missing a beat, she responded, given that third brother is among the world's elite racers, you must have clinched first place. His laughter was heartfelt. Spot on, Dai Dai. What would you like as a reward? She felt a familiar warmth. It reminded her of how her brothers would indulge her like she was still their toddler sister. Pondering on the reward, she playfully said, I'd love to see that trophy of yours. Wait a few days, and third brother will be home. You can do more than just see, you can hold it. By the way, big brother is engrossed in his research while second brother is at his film shoot. I'll be sharing the news about you soon. Swiftly, Gu Dai intervened, why not inform big brother and second brother once they wrap up their work? I wouldn't want to distract them. With a stature akin to global icons, big brother Meng Si was a revolutionary scientist, owning patents in numbers that rival nations, and second brother Meng Chuan was a cinematic sensation. Gu Dai didn't want to interfere with their work because of her. Meng Ji, brushing her concern aside, assured, it's hardly a bother. They'd be elated to hear about you and might even perform better. As their conversation rolled on, Meng Ji shared tales and updates and Gu Dai listened intently. Her soft chuckles and gentle remarks warmed the atmosphere. To any outsider, the sight of Meng Ji's tender side would be astonishing. Many knew him as the assertive, fiery third heir of the Meng lineage. Their chat was eventually interrupted by an incoming call for Gu Dai. After bidding farewell and ending the call, Meng Ji's happy expression dissolved. Battling rising fury, he swiftly ordered an inquiry into Gu Dai's ordeals over the recent 3 years. He then opened a private chat room shared with his brothers. Typing swiftly, he wrote. Big brother, second brother, halt everything. Urgent news awaits. At Meng Si at Meng Chuan. Meng Si's reply was short, 1. But Meng Chuan playfully threatened, little Ji, if you keep us in suspense, be prepared to be exiled. Meng Ji, seeing the message, barely stifled a chuckle. Meng Chuan's recent imperial role in a historical drama was evidently influencing his responses. Maybe it was time to advise his agent against roles promoting fraternal mischief. Gathering his thoughts, Meng Ji typed earnestly, Dai Dai's still with us. Spoke to her just now. She's been through a lot these past years, and worse, she's been bullied. Both Meng Si and Meng Chuan were visibly agitated after reading the message, their eyes blazing with fury and concern. Meng Chuan's fingers flew over his phone's keyboard. Who dared harm our dearest sister? I'll get a break from filming to deal with those who crossed her. They won't live to see another day. Meng Xi's response was equally stern, give me Dai Dai's location. I need to be with her. Meng Ji, noting their reactions, swiftly replied. 1. Using 1 is analogous to giving a thumbs up or acknowledging presence in Eastern culture.